What if the quiet man who watches you every night knows more about your life than you think? Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments what you do for a living and whether you've ever experienced something truly strange at work. This story is for you. I never planned to work in an underground casino. Life just has a way of narrowing your options until you convince yourself that a bad decision is only temporary. I was 42 when I took the job, recently divorced, my savings thinned out by medical bills, and a son in college who still needed help. The casino operated behind a legitimate-looking private club, hidden in the lower level of an old commercial building. No signs, no windows, just a steel door and a password that changed every week. I was hired as a dealer because I had steady hands and a calm face. Those were important qualities when money disappeared as fast as it arrived. The room itself was always dim, filled with a soft hum of voices, the clink of chips, and a smell that was a mix of coffee, metal, and expensive cologne. People came there to forget who they were during the day. Almost every night, at almost the same hour, he sat down at my table. He was always alone, mid-50s, maybe early 60s, clean clothes, nothing flashy, no wedding ring. He never drank, never raised his voice, and never complained. He played carefully, like he wasn't there to win big, just to stay. What made him stand out wasn't his behavior, it was his attention. He watched me. Not in a crude or obvious way, but with a focus that felt heavy. When I shuffled cards, I could feel his eyes. When I paid out chips, I felt them again. If I looked up, he never looked away. He would simply nod, as if acknowledging that I had noticed. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. Dealers learn to ignore players' faces. You have to. But night after night, the feeling grew stronger. Other players came and went. He stayed until the end of my shift, then quietly cashed out and disappeared up the stairs. The casino closed at 4 in the morning. By the time I clocked out, the city outside was silent, stretched thin between night and dawn. I usually walked the 6 blocks to my apartment. It wasn't ideal, but I couldn't afford a car, and taxis in that area asked too many questions. The first time I felt it, I was halfway home. That unmistakable sensation, being watched. I stopped under a streetlight and pretended to check my phone. The sidewalk behind me was empty. No footsteps, no voices, just the hum of distant traffic. I laughed at myself and kept walking. The second time, it was stronger. My shoulders tightened. I turned quickly. This time, I saw him. He was across the street, walking at the same pace I was. When our eyes met, he didn't change direction. He didn't speed up or slow down. He simply kept walking, calm as ever. I told myself it was coincidence. Same neighborhood, same closing time. But deep down, I knew better. After that night, I paid closer attention. Not just to him, but to everything around me. The casino suddenly felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were leaning in. I memorized emergency exits. I counted how many steps it took to reach the door. I noticed which security guard actually stayed awake. The man returned the next evening, right on schedule. He greeted me by name. That was the moment my calm slipped. I never wore a name tag. None of us did. Real names weren't encouraged in a place like that. I managed a polite smile and asked how he was doing, my voice steady through years of practice. "Better now," he said. That was all. As the hours passed, I caught myself watching him instead. He didn't cheat. He didn't signal anyone. He barely touched his winnings. When he lost, he accepted it without reaction. It was as if the game itself meant nothing to him. When my shift ended, I waited. I pretended to reorganize chips, to wipe the table, to chat with another dealer. I wanted him gone before I left. But he waited too. He stood near the exit, hands in his coat pockets, as if he had nowhere else to be. When I finally stepped outside, the cold air hit my face, sharp and clean. I counted to 10 before turning the corner. Footsteps echoed behind me. This time, I didn't turn around. I walked faster, heart pounding, my mind running through every option. Run? Hide? Call someone? I reached into my pocket and wrapped my fingers around my keys. "Please don't be afraid," he said from behind me. His voice was calm, familiar. I stopped. Slowly, I turned around. He stood several feet away, giving me space, his palms open. "I know this looks bad, but I needed to talk to you somewhere quiet." I laughed, short and sharp. "Following someone home isn't how you do that." He nodded. "You're right, and I'm sorry." He told me his name was Daniel. He said he used to work in security. He said he recognized patterns, habits, people who didn't belong where they were. "You don't belong in that place," he said, "and someone there has noticed." My stomach dropped. He explained that he had been watching the casino for weeks, not for the money, for the people. One of the regulars wasn't just a gambler. He was involved in something bigger, something dangerous, and I was in his line of sight without realizing it. "He tried to warn the management," Daniel said. "They didn't listen, so now I'm warning you." I wanted to believe him. I also wanted him to be wrong. Before I could ask more, a car turned to the corner. Daniel stepped back. "I can't stay," he said, "but you need to be careful, and you need to decide who you trust." Then he walked away, leaving me alone under the streetlight, my reflection shaking in the dark glass of a closed store. Sleep didn't come easily after that. Every sound outside my apartment felt amplified. I replayed Daniel's words over and over, searching for cracks, for signs of a lie. But something about him felt genuine. Not kind, not friendly, just honest. At work, the atmosphere shifted. I noticed whispered conversations that stopped when I entered the room. A man I recognized as a regular stared at me longer than usual, his smile thin and practiced. When I asked for a break, the floor manager said no, even though the room wasn't busy. Daniel didn't show up that night. Instead, the other man did. He sat at my table and asked me questions that weren't really questions. Where I lived, how long I'd been working there, whether I liked walking home alone. I deflected with jokes, with practiced vagueness, but my pulse raced. After my shift, I didn't walk home. I took a bus across town, then another one back, looping through streets I barely recognized. I checked reflections in windows. I changed directions suddenly. No one followed. The next morning, I found an envelope taped to my apartment door. Inside was a single card and a note. "Trust your instincts, D." That was it. I called in sick that night, and the next. On the third day, my manager showed up at my door. He smiled too much and asked too many questions. I told him I was quitting. His smile disappeared. "You don't just quit," he said quietly. "You finish what you start." That night, I packed a bag. Daniel met me at a diner just before dawn. He looked tired, older than I remembered. "They're on to you," he said, "and now they're on to me, too." He explained that years ago, he'd failed to stop something similar. Someone got hurt. He never forgot the signs. When he saw them again, he couldn't walk away. We had one option, he said. Go to the authorities with everything he had collected. Names, times, locations. It won't be easy, he warned, and it won't be fast. I looked down at my hands. They were steady. "I'm in," I said. The weeks that followed felt unreal. Interviews, statements, long waits in quiet rooms with bad coffee. I changed apartments. I changed my routine. I learned how much of my life had been visible without me noticing. The casino was shut down quietly. No headlines, no drama, just a locked door and an empty building. Some people vanished from the city overnight. Others pretended they'd never been there at all. Daniel and I stayed in touch, but at a distance. There were rules, boundaries, safety first. One afternoon, months later, I received a message from an unknown number. It's over. That was all. I took a walk that evening, the first long one I'd taken in a while. The city felt different when you weren't afraid of every shadow. I passed the old building, the door was gone, the windows boarded up. For the first time, I felt something loosen in my chest. Daniel called me the next day. He said he was leaving town. New job, new start. You did the right thing, he told me. So did you, I said. There was a pause. Then he added, you were never really alone. You just didn't know who was watching for the right reasons. It's been 2 years since then. I work a normal job now, regular hours, bright lights. I walk home without counting my steps. Sometimes when I hear footsteps behind me, my shoulders still tense. But then I remind myself where I am. People ask me why I left my old job. I usually say it just wasn't worth the stress. The truth is more complicated. Every now and then, I think about how close I came to missing the signs, how easy it would have been to dismiss that feeling in my gut, to tell myself I was imagining things. But instincts exist for a reason. Daniel sends a postcard once a year. No return address, just a city name and a short note. Still watching, still paying attention. And sometimes when I sit quietly with my coffee in the morning, I wonder how many people out there feel like something is wrong but don't say anything. How many strange moments at work are actually warnings. That's why I'm telling this story, because if you've ever felt watched, if something at your job doesn't sit right, if a small voice in your head tells you to be careful, listen to it. It might just save you.